Welcome to the Men's Lifeline Academy. We bring on stellar men who have reclaimed their lives, who have taken accountability, responsibility, living that scary life, always learning from life. And today's gonna be a special day. This is the 70th episode of the podcast, and with that, we have Michael Williams, who has generously decided to come on board, who has spent 35 years in sales, and he actually recognized that it was taking his life away from his family, from special events like birthdays, and he decided at age 50 to start over, to start his own company. So if you're out there and you want to know what it's like, that it's not too late to start over, Michael, let's hear about your story, man.
Yeah, first thank you for having me on, Zach. I really appreciate it, and I'll just give you a little introduction of who I am. And I'm super excited that this is the 70th podcast, I believe. And last week was my birthday. I just turned 50, so I love the even numbers, 50 and 70. But yeah, my name's Michael Williams. I'm a husband. I'm a father of two boys, 11 and 13. I live in Boca Raton, Florida. I've spent 35 years in professional sales. I've built teams, I've trained reps, I've scaled companies from ground up. I've lived in 5 different countries, some for work, some for life experience. But the reason why I'm here today is it's not about business. It's not about my travels, which if you want to know more about it, feel free to ask. It's about what happens to your career when it starts costing you things at home. And I think that's what matters the most. And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people, because as you get busy, as you start to really get in your career, and it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, 50, or even older than 50. We get lost sometimes in our career. And our career takes time from us that's super important to our families. And last year, I realized a job that I took was taking away from my family. I was missing dinner. I was missing my kids' events. I was missing the moments you don't get back, especially my kids are 11 and 13. These are years where if you miss those things, they're gone. And, when they get a little bit older, or as they age up into high school, my oldest just started high school, they start distancing themselves from you, and you miss those early parts. So I made one of the scariest decisions in my life. I walked away and started building something on my own terms. Now, I had done this multiple times before in my life. In my 20s, 30s, 40s, I've walked away from great jobs, great pay, great careers, and I've started over. But never did I think I'd be starting over at 50. And that decision, it just didn't change my career. It changed my family. It's actually the reason why I'm writing a book right now for kids. And I'll tell you the story because it's probably the best part, and it's very interesting. So as I mentioned before, I've started over multiple times, whether it be I was at a company, I wasn't happy, I wasn't getting the time or the freedom that I wanted. I went out, started my own thing. And I've taken big swings. I've rebuilt from scratch. But starting over at 50, like you mentioned at the beginning, I never thought that would be me. If you asked me a year ago, 5 years ago, where I'd be at 50, I'd tell you I'd have a VP role. I'd be coasting, comfortable pay, not worrying about too much, and just, coasting in comfort. That's what you picture. That's the plan. But life doesn't always follow the plan, as you know. You get derailed, things change. So the position I took last year, which I changed and started my own thing, it was a remote position. And there was this big talk not long ago about how great remote jobs are. And I want a remote job. I want to work from home. But I'm going to tell you, it's hard. It's hard because I'm in this office right now. This is the office I made. This is the office I was doing remote work from. And just outside my door over here is my dining room table and the rest of my house. And sometimes you don't know about drawing the line between work and home and family life. Right. And I was in my office all day, every day. And I'm not one not to work. I actually enjoy working. I love hammering it out. But at a certain time, you got to go enjoy life with the family, enjoy your wife, enjoy why you're working. And I think we all forget that sometimes. And here's what started happening. Instead of me going to my kids, because my kids would come home, and before I took this job that I left, which made me realize I needed to start my own thing, I would go spend some time with my kids. When they first got home from school, my oldest, hey, how's your day? What happened? You want to check in. My youngest, I would go pick him up. Well, my work got in the way. I wasn't able to go pick him up anymore. My wife had to go pick him up. But that
Yeah.
time was quality time in the car with him. What'd you have for lunch? It's the stupid small things, but it means so much because you really get to hear what's going on with them, where they are in life, what's happening. And as small or as basic as it may feel, you still want to just be there for them. Well, when I took this job, that was going away. I no longer was I going to the kids or going to get them. They were coming in here. On the rare occasion I had my door open. They know when my door is closed, just like now with meeting with you,
Mhm.
don't come in, don't knock. Of course, sometimes they still do. But my door was always closed. And the very few times it was open, one of them would sneak in. And I started realizing they're coming to me instead of me going to them.
Mm.
And I'm going to start losing that. And boy, a light went off on that. And that was the first red flag that I started to see. And it hit me once. And I was thinking, wow, I used to go to them. They're coming to me, and that's bad. And I need to open my eyes on that. So it was just an eye opener. And it was the first red flag I saw. And I should have dove in on that a little bit more, but I didn't think too much into it at that time. So, and my kids, they're busy. They have my oldest, he's in 4 different bands. He has all these different concerts that he does.
Oh,
My
wow.
youngest, he wants to be a pilot. He wants to be like his dad. I was in the Army once, and he wants to be in the military, and he wants to be a pilot. So I put him in Boy Scouts to start him out. He's 11 because it gets him. First off, he learns some amazing life skills, but it gets him understanding the process. He has to wear a uniform, and they have to stand there and salute and do all the things and say a pledge of allegiance and say a prayer. And, it gets him into that, and he loves it. I started missing my Boy Scout meetings with my son. I started missing band performance. And I was getting pulled into the work. So just before we started, we were kind of going back and forth about time zones. Well, the previous job I had last year before I started my own thing was in Central Time. And they didn't respect my time. For them, 5 o'clock, they still work. That wasn't that late for a higher level position. Well, that's 6 o'clock for me. Soon their 7 o'clock is my 8 o'clock, and I'm missing dinner outside, and I can hear my family. And let me tell you, dinner in my house is sacred for me. We all sit down at the table. I don't let the kids eat in the room. I don't let them eat in front of the TV. And I have a strict rule, no electronics. And we all have to go around and share something we had happen to us today, good or bad.
Mm.
And I'm telling you guys, if you have kids and you don't do that, you really should. You really connect with your kids, and you get to hear things they normally wouldn't tell you. Because we're all sitting there and we all have to talk. And I'm always open to good or bad. I don't care because I want to hear both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's opened up some very interesting conversations. And I'll tell you, Zach, I started missing these dinners. And let me tell you what happened once, because this hit me hard. So I told you about the first red flag. So here comes a big second red flag. So I was a decent level in this company, and I was part of WBRs. They had 100-day meetings and all these different things. One meeting ran until 7 or 8 o'clock my time. And my wife, she knows that when I first start out with a company, I really need to give it my all. I need to be there. So they started dinner without me. This is one of the first dinners I missed. And I told you, my office is right outside the dining room table here.
So you can hear everything that's going on.
Yeah. And I was in this meeting, and it was running past 7. My wife said, are you going to join us? I said, I'm stuck in this meeting. Unfortunately, I can't at the moment. And she said, okay, we're just going to eat without you. First off, that hit a little bit. Not as much as the next thing I'm about to tell you.
Well, it violates your rule, no technology. I know it's kind of with work.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not even following my own rules. Even though work is not a technology, the whole purpose of having no technology at the table is so we could be there as a family and not have interruptions. So this meeting's running 8 o'clock, and I'm sitting in my office and I can hear my family, even though my door's shut, I can hear my family talking and eating. And there was this conversation happening. It was the CEO and one of the VPs. And I totally missed what they said because I heard my family right outside that door. And I just sat there and thought, what am I doing? What? I'm missing my family. I'm missing the best times of my kids' years. Why am I in here doing this? So I realized this isn't what I signed up for. And it hit me hard. When that meeting was over, I went out to get my dinner cold, and my family had already finished and everybody went about their thing. And I'm sitting there at the table by myself and I'm thinking,
Oh,
this sucks. This hit me. I realized right then and there, I need to do something. I need to take action because if I don't, this job is going to run me over. And it was really a eye-opening moment at that point. So, what happened from that? Well, I made the decision to leave the company. And let me tell you, that's simple in one sentence. But when you're 50 years old and you decide to leave your company and you're walking away from a good, stable paycheck, a title, and a team that I helped build, because it wasn't about the corporate environment. I love the people that I work with. Anywhere I go, anything I do, I always latch on to the people I work with, and I really want to see them succeed.
hmm
I have people call me back years later. Funny enough, I had a birthday party last week, and I had quite a few people from a company that I was with a few years ago, and all of them were telling stories of how I touched their life some way, somehow, and it made them better, whether it be in life or their work. And man, that really hit. So I walked away. I submitted my resignation. And let me tell you, if anybody's ever had a situation like this, you know what I'm saying. It was hard because you don't know what you don't know. Now, I had started over before,
right.
multiple times, but I was younger. I knew I can always come back. It doesn't matter. But there were three things that I knew, Zach. Three things. One, when I left, I had 35 years of knowledge. Nobody could take that away from me.
It's true.
In sales, in corporate boardrooms, in presentations, in sales processes. That doesn't expire just because you leave a job. Two, I needed to be present for my family. Not just physically home, but actually present at the table, at the performances, at the scout meetings, at the band performances and practices, the football games where my son plays band in. And I couldn't do that where I was. And the third thing, I knew I had to drive. This is the hardest thing, Zach. And when you're young, you know you have drive, but as you get older, you tend to wonder if that drive's still there. And you got to keep that fire lit. And when you start your own thing, there is no paycheck waiting for you. There's no boss. I mean, yeah, my wife is the boss sometimes, but there's no boss sitting there and hand you a plan or motivate you or say, hey, this is this 30, 60, 90-day plan. This is the direction we're going.
hmm
You wear every hat: sales, marketing, client acquisition, everything. And the motivation has to come from deep inside of you. And honestly, that's where most startups fail, Zach. It's not because the idea is bad. It's because the fire isn't strong that's deep down inside of you. So I started this company, Sales Mastery HQ. I wrote a book that I had been carrying around for me in my mind for years. It's so funny. At my birthday party, everybody at my birthday party bought my book.
Oh, how
And
sweet.
they came and they said, Michael, that book was amazing. And I can't believe you finally did it. That was everybody's response. I can't believe you finally sat down and did it. What got you to do it finally? And I said, I started my own thing. I took my destiny in my control. And the book's called Sales Mastery, the Playbook for Phone Sales Closers. And I started consulting. I started helping companies fix their processes. Everybody's throwing AI at things, but you got to fix your broken processes first before you put AI in.
Just to say, yeah, I can't fix everything. I would say you're doing everything right.
Yeah,
Gotta give
exactly.
it time.
And so it was the hardest lesson I learned, being that I spent 35 years as that sales guy, hitting numbers, presenting to boards. But everything I learned, I took with me. And I started my own thing. And now I'm at my dinners, I'm at my performances, I'm at the scout meetings. But the biggest impact I took was the time I got back. So I got time back that I was able to do things that I wanted to do over and above my family. So one of the big things I wanted to talk to you about today, because this is really exciting for me, and I think a lot of people will relate with this, is my oldest son wanted to start earning some money over the summer. This was
Hmm.
last summer. And he's getting to the age where he knows he's going to buy a car. And I told him, I'm not buying a car for you. Here's what I'll make a deal with you, though. For every dollar you earn, I'll match it. You
Oh,
earn two
nice.
grand, I'll give you 2 grand. You earn 5 grand, I'll give you 5 grand. So you're going to have to put together a plan, because whatever car you want, you got to figure, you got to come up with 50% of that.
Hmm.
So he and I sat down at that dinner table that I lost at one point and got back. And we started planning out his summer. And we started planning out how he's going to make some money. And my stepson Levi, he, like I mentioned, he's a teenager, and we're going through things, and his motivation is not necessarily there. The motivation was the money, but working with me was another part of motivation that he didn't realize that he was about to get as well.
Hmm.
So it's kind of funny because we made flyers together. Uh, we put on the flyer his name, his little story about what he's trying to achieve. And he had a list. I told him to come with a list of about 10 different jobs and pick a couple. Well, he wanted them all. And I said, no, Levi, you can't pick all 10 jobs. Pick 2 or 3. Let's master those. And then we'll layer in some other ones. And you'll see, as you get jobs, there's going to be things people will request of you that will layer in other jobs as well, just like a business, right?
Right.
And he hit the neighborhood. I taught him some things on sales, what to say when he got to the door. If they weren't there, hang a flyer. If they were there, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Levi. I'm your neighbor. And I taught him that start with an icebreaker. Oh, I saw your car in the yard. That is an amazing Honda Civic. That's actually why I'm trying to do this. I want a Honda Civic just like yours, right? That icebreaker, so he could get the in, so it doesn't seem like he's just cold door knocking, right?
Right. That's interesting. It's a good
Yeah,
way.
and it was funny. So that whole experience led me to write a kid's book in sales. And the book is called Sales Mastery for Kids. And it's for ages 11 to 16. And I didn't write the book just to be about selling. That was the hard thing, because I'd written a book for sales professionals, but how do I take it down to a kid level? And I built this system in the book where the parents work with the kids. So just to share you a little bit about it, because this is kind of fun. So the parents are the CEO of the
Hmm.
company.
Okay.
They make all the decisions, and every kid starts at the sales rep level, which is tier 1. And they earn promotions by completing real goals, certain amount of sales, certain amount of jobs, certain amount of referrals. And then they get promoted by the CEO, the parents. And when they're struggling, or they're having a problem, or they're losing that motivation, they call a board meeting with the CEO. And they go sit with the parents, and they actually get with them, and the parents are involved. And this was my way to give back, because I wanted to make a book where the parents can be with the kids and really have fun with this. And it's not easy to have fun in sales, because ultimately everybody knows the fun in sales is the money. And also the side part of the fun in sales is when you close a deal. That's really fun.
Right.
I look at sales as I get to help people. But this book is something that I wanted to do because I saw this disconnect. And I saw where it's hard. Not everybody can leave like me. Okay. A lot of people can't just up and say, I'm going to go start my own thing. So
Right.
instead of just leaving, why don't you involve your kids in what you do a little bit so you guys can share and actually bond together and work together? So, and it doesn't matter if you're just in sales. The book is written about sales, but if you're a plumber, show your kid how to bid out a job. Or if you're in finance, show your kid how money works and make a project together. Use the book to build projects over and above just the kid making, some money on the side in the summer or when they have free time. So, my thinking behind this book is that if one parent reads this book and sits down with their kid the way that I sat down with Levi, that's the whole point. That's me paying it forward. And I think if this happens, if a parent gets this book and they sit down with their kid and they do this, they're going to realize just how much they're missing because they're working with their kid. It's hard to find things to work with your kids on, right?
Right.
I'm not sure if you have any kids, do you, Zach?
No, I don't have any kids.
Yeah, so sometimes it's not easy to find the in with the kids, right? Because you're the older parents and what you know, they already know, or what you say is wrong. And this is a great way to get in with that. So I wanted to share that with you. I didn't know if you had any questions for me about it or.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. One, I think that's a brilliant idea. First of all,
Thank
that's
you.
a brilliant idea because then it teaches kids how to address an issue if you have an issue with somebody
Mm-hmm.
versus storming off. I mean, I've worked with kids for years. So I do have experience working with kids from like 2 and like 9 months all the way up to like 19 years old.
Okay, so you
Go
do
ahead.
have some experience in it and you
Yeah,
know how it is.
especially. And so in working with a lot of kids for many years, it's just that the one thing they always wanted was some type of connection
Mm-hmm.
and being really patient with them, especially when they had to bring up something very uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so I think that's a great way of like kind of setting up like how a job's going to be eventually. It's like, well, you're going to have everyone. You can't just storm off. You can't just say, I don't want to talk to you, slam the door, and never talk to your boss again. Or the case CEO, the parent. So a question I have is, and this is with you also owning your own company,
Mm-hmm.
how do you stay on top of that where you're making sure the kids can maybe like also like how do you handle when they say some of that displeasure to you?
I'm sorry, if they say what?
So let's say something like a kid, one like let's say Levi said he's unhappy with you because he has
Mm-hmm.
called a board meeting, and like how do you also live that out from the book you've written to actually living that out when there's sometimes may not the most positive thing being said,
No,
like missing the dinners or wanting to spend extra time working on the book, let's
it's
say.
a great question. And I think the experience that I had with Levi that led me to write this book is something that I learned. And I wrote that into the book in some of the discussions and the games and the board meeting with the parents is you just have to have a real conversation with the child, the kid. You know, in sales, you're going to get a lot of no's. And that's what Levi learned when he knocked doors. His first no, it crushed him. I mean, he came back to me. So I drove him down the street. It's funny. It was just down the block here. And I think it was the third door because the first two, nobody answered. So he hung the
Mhm.
flyer. The third door, he didn't do the icebreaker. He just went straight for the kill and said, so I wash trash cans, I walk dogs, and I mow lawns. Do you have any work for me? And
Oh,
they're like, no. Because, it was his first
right.
face to face, right? And he crashed and burned. And he came back to the car. His head was down. It looked like his whole world collapsed. His bubble popped. And he got in the car and we pulled down the street. We pulled over and I said, talk to me, Levi. How did it go? And they're not good. He's a bit older. He's 13. So he's just starting high school and he doesn't open up as much. And that actually gave me an opportunity to get him to open up. And it actually led to other things of him opening up on that he wouldn't have opened up before because we had that moment. And I think what that did is it created a moment between him and I where he felt comfortable being able to share with me things that happened. And in this case, it was a no, but it actually led into other things where he ended up sitting down with me about 2 weeks ago and shared that he wasn't he wasn't enjoying the time with one of his teachers. And I said, well, just like in sales, Levi, you take a job, you're going to work for a boss you don't like. And the problem is you can up and leave, but it's not easy to find a job, or you can make the best of it. You can have a conversation with your boss. Don't be rude. Don't be mean. So it opened up. And to answer your question, I think what this does is it puts the kid in a moment that they normally wouldn't have with you, and you could be there for that moment. Because kids, when they hear no, when you hear no in sales, no is just one step closer to a yes. That's how we always think in sales. But for a kid, when you hear no, that's normally a bad thing. You're not supposed to do that. Why did you do this? No, no, so it's actually converting in their mind to say, maybe no is not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe no is, hey, let's have a conversation about that. I got to know, what can I do different? Or what did I do wrong, Mike? He calls me Mike. He's like, what did I do wrong, Mike? And I said, well, here's what happened. Because I rolled down the window when he walked up. I said, it's pretty straightforward, Levi. Walk me through what happened. So you knocked on the door. What happened next? I wanted him to tell me. Because me telling him is not going to do any good. Him telling me, I can break it down for him. By the way, everything I'm telling you is sales anyways. It's so funny how this...
Everything you're saying is everything that I've ever read about sales.
Yep, so. It's exactly the same thing. So I had him talk back to me about it. What happened? Well, I said this and this. Well, did you really say just that? Well, let me tell you what I heard you said. You went straight, do you have any work for me? Here's what I do. And I think the problem there is what did you miss, Levi? What part of the sales process did you miss? And he said, well, I didn't compliment him on anything. I didn't say, oh, you have a nice house. Because we went through like 5 or 6 things for him to say when he gets in front of people. And I said, that's it. I said, if somebody was walking up to talk to you, if you didn't know them and they just started talking to you, would you be like, hold on a second, I don't know who you are or what's going on? He said, yeah. I said, it's the exact same thing for sales. It's nice that you say you're a neighbor, but we don't go over there enough for them to be a friend neighbor where they know us and they're like, oh, Levi, how's it going? Or they might recognize you because they saw you in the neighborhood. So yeah, I think that opens up conversations because you're in moments with them that you would normally, you are in life, but it's moments where you can't actually have a conversation with them. They kind of shut down and don't give you all the information. And me being in the car with him and him getting that first no allowed me to work with him and talk to him and really open up, which led to other things.
Wow. And it really teaches a lot of problem solving, of being able to even lay out exactly what happened and what, I like what you said, what really happened.
Yeah.
We have what we see, and then the reality of the event that happens, like, where it's like, well, you might have thought you said that, but this is what really happened.
Zach, it's the same thing in sales.
Expectations, reality.
It's the same thing in sales. Every time I ran a sales floor, it doesn't matter if it was in-person sales or phone sales, the salesperson always has their version of what happened and has their explanation as to why somebody didn't buy. But the reality is, and I'd say 90% of the time whenever I had a salesperson that crashed and burned on a call or in-person sale, I would say, listen to your call or go back through that in-person sale and walk step by step what happened. And I give them a few minutes to do that, just like I did with Levi. And they realize, oh yeah, I didn't say this, or I didn't say that, or I missed this. And I said, see, there it is. So, yeah.
Well, that's the trickiest part about sales, because you want to do a good job. You want to honor your company with bringing in revenue. And at the same time, it's hard because if you go straight for it, most people are going to say no, especially when you open with a closed-ended question like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, funny enough, you mentioned that because I did have a conversation with him about open-ended and closed-ended.
Good, good.
So before we went out on this whole journey of hanging door flyers and doing the various things we did, I walked him through Sales 101. And I said, one of the most important things you have to do is, first off, sir, ma'am, be polite. You know, a lot of people even come knock on my door. First thing they say is, oh, how's your pest control person doing? Well, hold on, let's address me first. You know, you don't know me. You just jump straight into the conversation. Hi, sir, how you doing today? ma'am, how you doing, ma'am? That goes so far for people, and it's so respectful. Also, conversation we had is I said, okay, what are you going to wear? Go dress up as we're going to go walk door to door. I want to see what you're going to wear. And he was going to wear what he was going to wear to school, which was big baggy, they're into these almost gigantic bell-bottom jeans now, torn. This is in South Florida. I don't know if it's everywhere else in the country, but big torn holes in the jeans and just a plain old white t-shirt or something. And he comes out and I said, okay, Levi, go in front of the mirror and tell me, would you buy from somebody that looks like you right now? And you own a home, you own a car, and somebody comes to your door and looks like that. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with it. I said, go to the mirror, check it out. He comes back. Is it the jeans and the torn holes in them? I said, yeah, Levi, you got to look good. Because your first impression with somebody means the world. And yeah, they may have seen you in the neighborhood, but they've never talked to you. They've never, these are people that didn't really engage. I mean, we have some neighbors we engage with. We try to be as neighborly as we can. Some neighbors don't want to be neighborly, and that's fine. And I respect their boundaries. And the one that shot him a no was one that we don't really talk to because they're just kind of there. And yeah, he went and changed and he looked more presentable. And I had him comb his hair. It was all messed up. And I said, Levi, you don't have to wear a suit or tie. We're not in that situation, but you definitely have to look a little bit more presentable because you're not just selling your service, you're selling yourself. When you walk up to that door, everything that person's going to think about you for the next 30 seconds is how they see you. And if they see that you're in some torn jeans, big baggy bottom, just a plain t-shirt, they're probably going to turn you away. They're probably thinking that your ball got lost in their yard and you're coming to get the ball or something out of their yard.
Exactly.
So yeah, I took all of this and I built it into the book because I wanted parents to be able to spend time with their kids. And every kid wants to do a summer job, even my youngest. So Levi actually got pretty big on his job to the point to where he doesn't hang door hangers anymore. He has so many referrals because I taught him how to do referrals. And then I taught him how to mark down their birthday, mark down, even if you don't talk to them for 2 or 3 weeks, I want you to send a text every 2 weeks. Just say, hey, how's it going, Zach? Just checking in. I hope you're having a great week. If you ever need anything, I'm here for you, Levi. He has so many referrals. He doesn't need to hang door hangers anymore. And that's part of the book as well as the referral section and moving up. Right now, he got promoted by me because I kind of followed the book, and he's a sales manager because the 3 tiers are a sales rep, sales manager, a director, and then I'm the CEO, the parent. So, and he's had numerous board meetings with me. He calls a board meeting. He's like, Mike, can we have a board meeting? I feel like I'm at work again. I'm like, yep. Let me get the vice president mom. She's gonna come in and we're gonna sit down and have a conversation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
So the kind of one of the questions I have then is, do you still find it? And I think the answer is going to be yes, but I want to know a little bit more about it.
Sure.
Do you still find it that people are still okay with being like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am? Because if I've ever done that to somebody, they go, don't say that to me. It makes me feel old.
That's a good question. And even when I was on the sales floor, I would still teach my sales reps that. Okay. Because you don't know somebody's name, saying, hey, you could say hi, sure. But it is a great question, saying sir or ma'am. If somebody says, if I said to you, hi, sir, how you doing? You said, don't call me sir. You're making me feel old. I'd say, hey, sir is out of respect, not age. And that's the same response I gave Levi to say, if ma'am, don't call me ma'am. I feel like I'm old, or I feel like I'm your mom. Well, ma'am is only out of respect, nothing else. And boy, does that hit somebody real quick and gets rid of that situation. And, what they're like, wow.
That part then, like what's the next response that they find out it's more about a respect thing versus like an age?
Yeah. So you're asking, when you say sir, ma'am, and you say that's more about respect than age, what was the question after that?
Like, what is like the next response that the person will typically give then once they realize it's not?
Immediate next response is icebreaker now. So
Oh,
Levi was
okay.
taught, yeah. So, sir, man, and actually that part is a good icebreaker because it's not just an icebreaker to talk about maybe the color of their house or how beautiful their house is or the car they drive in the driveway or you have a beautiful dog, whatever. That opens up the next line that you say after this wraps around respect, and now you're opening up the door to have a conversation. And it's normally a comment, just something you see. Maybe you open the door and the dog runs up. Oh, do you mind if I pet your dog? It's so cute. What kind of dog is this? Right? Take it away from what you're about to talk about right at the door and turn it into a conversation, because nobody likes to be sold, but everybody loves to buy. And if you're talking to somebody and you're having a conversation, and then I eventually ask you for the sale, you're more inclined to say, you know what? I like this guy. Because most people buy because they like the person or they like the product or whatever the interaction. And that increases your sales closing rate. And I taught Levi this, and it was a huge eye opener because it helped him make some friends. He he was in a different school district. We had moved to West Boca,
Okay.
and he was in another school district in Coral Springs for middle school. When we moved to West Boca, he started high school, and there were some rough times at the dinner table where he was crying because he was getting ready to start high school and he didn't know anybody, right? You know, everybody in middle school in your district that you're going to school with, they're going to the same high school.
Right.
But he was changing districts, and that was hard. And I some of the things that I taught him in sales translated into him making his first friend, and it was the icebreaker thing. He ran into this kid. I remember, so before he started school, he had some band practice that he had to do because the first day of school, crazy enough, he was going to be performing at a football game. So they had band practice leading up to the first day of school. So it kind of got him broken into, okay, this is the school, this is how it works. And he met somebody there, and he started a conversation because he liked their shirt. And he was telling me this story. And he said, hey, I really like your shirt. And where'd you get that? And it started a whole conversation. Now that's one of his best friends in high school now
Oh,
because
that's
he did that
awesome.
icebreaker.
You know, it's amazing how much when you really dive into sales, how much it's about truly about people and like trying to help people and truly about just thinking beyond yourself and putting yourself in someone else's shoes, that
Yeah.
empathy and even how to connect with somebody versus just the standard being if you go into sales, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Being the
Well,
first, typically what comes to people's first mind. And then this is how do I build a relationship? What goes into building a relationship?
yeah.
How do you maintain that relationship? Like you said, contacting them every 2 weeks, remembering birthdays. It just reminds me of a video where this pizza guy would literally write down if something bad happened, if something happened to their dog, just something. And he went from making not many tips to a lot of tips, and just had like a little notebook, would immediately write down like a fact or something. So when they'd go and deliver it to the house again, he could follow up, and they're like, "Wait, you remember that?
Yeah.
How'd you know it was my birthday?" It's like, "Well, it was your birthday last year." I just went back. Didn't say he went through his notes, but it's like,
Well, I think, Zach, sales has gotten a bad rap. I mean, it always has, in the sense that people know you could go to sales and make some good money. How
Mhm.
you make that money, it's hard. And a lot of sales has a bad rap to it, has a bad name. For example, that company that I had left, they had brought me in to convert their order takers. They were just phone people answering phones. I call them order takers. And they wanted me to convert them into real salespeople where they actually asked for the sale and did upsells.
Mm.
And one of my first meetings with them, I asked them, I went around we had a Zoom meeting. I was remote and they're all over the place. And I had each one all on my screen here. And I said, when you think of sales, tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind. And here's the comments. Sleazy, car salesman, trying to sell me something I don't need, trying to rip me off. And, me being a 35-year sales guy, it hurts because I know the image of a salesperson. I know that. There's some good salespeople out there. I'm going to tell you right now, Zach, there really are. And there are some people out there that really want to be good salespeople. And there's some bad ones, just like with any profession.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, when it comes to sales, is everything you need to do has sales. You want to go buy a car, you got to deal with salesmen. You want to go buy something at Best Buy, they're not necessarily salesmen, but they're salesmen. They're going to offer you a warranty, or do you have Best Buy membership or this? They're salesmen. Everything you do, even in life, Zach, you want to meet a girlfriend, you got to sell yourself. You know, you go to the bar, or you meet her at church, or you meet her wherever, you're selling yourself. You're putting your best foot forward. You want to make a friend. Maybe you're at an event and somebody brought a friend and you're like, man, that guy is cool, or that girl is really cool. I'd love to hang out with her some more. You're selling yourself. Sales is everywhere. It's just locked in with our everyday lives. You want a job, you got to sell yourself to a recruiter or a company. It's just
Correct.
there. And unfortunately it gets a bad rap and a bad name, but there are good salespeople there, and there are people that really want to make a difference. I like to take pride in that. I'm one of those people. And that's why I did that book, because it's not just about sales. It's about connecting with your kid. Because I think a lot of parents get disconnected with their kids, especially as they get in their teens. It gets harder to interact with them, to be with them, and you get more distant. This is one way, because they're all motivated by money. That's for sure. My youngest
The
is,
first thing that comes to your mind is, how do I make a lot of cash?
yeah, yeah. My youngest is, he said, I want to buy an electric scooter. I said, well, you're going to have to earn it. And I said, when you earn it and you buy it, first off, when you make that amount of money, a couple $100 or $100, I forgot what the scooter is, you're going to question whether you want to buy this or not. It starts because it's your money, not my money. And second, when you buy it, you're going to take more care of it. If I bought it for you, you don't care. You just throw it on the ground, you throw it in the garage. But when you buy it, you'll start polishing the wheels. You'll make sure that thing's always charged. You take more pride in it. So I said, if you want to do this, you got to do what Levi did. And you got to start at tier 1, right at the bottom as a sales rep, and work your way up. And he just started laughing. And coming up here in summer, he's going to be doing that in between Boy Scouts. He's going to go out and do the same thing Levi did, because there was a couple things he wants to buy. And I said, you got to earn it.
No, I mean, and that's how you get a lot of productive kids. And that's how you make that impact.
Yep, 100%.
I'm sure, hopefully, with the new book, once it's written and once you get it out there, hopefully it'll be then helping a lot of parents out, knowing what to do. Because a lot of parents are like, where's the manual? Where's a book? Where's an idea? And I know there's thousands of books and thousands of ideas. I know those questions. Yeah. What's the right idea? What's the right way to do things? I got one person saying do this, other person saying, why would you do that? You got to do this way. And so when there's like all this information overload, it's like very confusing for people.
Yeah, so I think the thing with that is that the good thing is that there's a lot of parents looking for guidance.
Correct.
In some form or fashion. And it's just about how I get the book out there and how I market it so that parents can see it. I'm hoping to have it out in this late spring, in time for summer, this coming summer. I've been working hard and diligently at it. Actually, just before I got on with you, I was knocking out another chapter and working on restructuring things and really, really diving in to make sure it benefits parents. Because the book is, it's about sales. It's a book, but at the end of the day, the difference I was trying to make in it, the impact I was trying to make, was finding a way to connect with your kid and bond with them and really have some fun doing it. Because so for Levi to get promoted to the next level, he had to come do a sales pitch to his mom and I, the CEO and vice president.
Right.
And Daniel was there, and I said, listen, Daniel is my hired consultant for this interview, and you're gonna have to impress him as well. That's his brother. And so we were all sitting there on the couch, and he was doing it in front of the TV, of course off, but he was doing it there.
Right.
And he was doing his pitch the best he knew how. And at this point, he had done it numerous times, because to move up in the different levels, you had to have sold so much. So he had done enough pitches. And Daniel barely let him through to the next level, because I said, listen, a big heavy weight of your grade is Daniel, whether he's sold or not. So you better really dig in and make this your best pitch. And after that, my wife and I were doing something else. I think we were washing dishes, and we were just talking. We're like, that was such a fun family event. We were laughing. He was messing up. He said, can I try again? Can I go again? Am I being judged? How many times can I do this? And Daniel was just digging on him, and I loved it. and it just brought us together again, and that's what I hope this does. A book is one thing, but something that could bring you together and do something like that, it's a lot of fun.
Well, and I think that's the key thing is how do you add fun to it? Because
Yeah.
that way it seems less chore, task driven, where we lose that creativity of having fun with it.
Yeah,
Like
and
you
and
have
the
to
fun
remember to have fun.
yeah, the fun in this sense is you're driving to get promoted. And that's what I did is I built this kind of corporate structure into the book, right? Where you're starting as a sales rep, where everybody starts, and you want to get promoted. And to get promoted, you have to have 10 paid jobs. I'm cheating over here because I have it on my other screen. 10 paid jobs, $150 earned, and one repeat customer. That gets you promoted. And he was keeping track of it. He has a whiteboard in his room, and he was writing down jobs. He would put the little slashes, and you've just got to do something that's fun for something that's achievable. I find kids like it when they can achieve a mark, right? And when he got promoted, we made a big deal out of it on my wife's Facebook. Our son got promoted at work, and people were like, "Work? Where you guys slave laboring him out there?" I said, "No." And then I explained what it was, and everybody's like, "That's such an amazing idea. We want that. When is it coming?" It was just a lot of fun. So you've got to adding in the achievables, the money, and the ability to let them be able to freely talk to you. You can't shut them down. You can't talk down to them. You have to talk with them. You have to guide them. And those things are what make it fun and achievable.
Wow. I mean, that's just really well said, honestly. That achievable, that creativity, and make it something you can celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all key. So that way you can just like enjoy and soak all that in, all that hard work. Because it's not easy doing 10 sales, one repeat, and then $150 revenue. That's hard. That takes it's a
Yeah,
lot of doors.
it does. But they keep track of it, and you'll see that. And when I saw him writing it on the board, I knew he was bought in. I knew he wanted to do this, and he was going to have fun with it. So yeah, that's what led me to write the book. It's funny because I had another book on deck, and it was more for sales managers. And this was after I left the position last year, and I was going down that path. But then when I went through all of this with my son, I quickly realized this is fun. And if other families are able to do this and have a good time with their kids, this took more priority. So I had a lot of people wanting the manager's guide for the sales. I put it on the back burner, and I redirected my attention to the kids book, and I put it under my same series of sales mastery.
Right.
And I I am so looking forward to it coming out because it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to hear people talk about how they did this with their kid and they shared it, because I have a bunch of stuff in the book where they have to download the application to get promoted. The kid has to fill out an application to get promoted in addition to meeting those requirements. And I'm looking forward to seeing those and how they do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I
You
can't
can
wait for it.
impact a whole generation of kids knowing how to even apply job interviews. I remember there was an article, let's say a year ago at this point, where a lot of kids had to bring their parents in for interviews and everything. And like, how do you fill out a job interview? And
Yep.
actually, like, what goes to an interview? Like, it was like the first time, like, ever people were asking about that.
Yep.
So that you're gonna potentially impact a whole generation of, hey, I got this book and it changed my life. And I didn't know how to fill out a job application, and now I do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's called Sales Mastery for Kids: How to Persuade, Negotiate, and Earn Your First $1,000. That's the title of the book.
It's a great title. I mean, that's something that's achievable. Everyone strives for is that $1,000 mark.
Yep.
And I noticed that everything kind of comes in multiples of tens.
Yep.
Like your first 10 is hard, then it's your next hundreds, like the next hard, then 1,000, then 10,000. And so there's just something about 10. I don't know if you know where that comes from because I've always been curious about it. It seems like everything is in tens.
It is actually funny enough, my 50th and your 70th podcast, my 50th birthday and your 70th podcast.
Yeah.
It is
I
funny
mean,
how that kind of loops around. I have to look into that. I read about that before, but I have to look into it again because you're right. Things do come in tens.
I know that the biggest thing I've seen is on being on social media. Like the first 10 were really hard. Next was like that took the longest was 100, and
Yes.
then what took a really long time is 1,000. That was like one of the hardest things to achieve. And then the next number is that 10,000. I've always heard that once you're past the 10,000 mark, that's when growth kind of goes like this to a little bit more like that, a little bit more.
Well, I'm walking that same journey right now on X. I started it for the Sales Mastery HQ, and I crossed 300 and I think 15 today.
Nice.
It,
315. Let's go.
yeah, it's you start out and you're talking into a void for a little while, and then you start realizing people are raising their hands and they actually want to hear you, and they actually, if you bring quality and content and things people want to read, and I was a little concerned because I focused it around sales, and I was wondering how many people are actually going to care about sales. Most people are posting memes or crazy or stupid things. I'm not saying everything stupid, but there's some crazy things that get viral. Is anybody going to want to hear about sales? And I was really surprised. When I understood what you're saying about crossing that first 100, and then I got to 150. I was like, 200's right there. I could see it. And then 300. Now I'm thinking, okay, 500's not too far out. I'm at 318 or whatever it is. It's not far out. I just got to keep doing it. I got to keep just coming to work. X is work. And I dedicate 3 times a day, 15 minutes at least, to post and reply on people's posts and post quality content on my timeline. And you've got to do that. If you want the followers and you want the engagement, you've got to treat it almost like a little mini job. So I commend
Oh,
you on your followers, and I can't
thank you.
wait to walk to that path of 1,000. My next achievement is 500, and then I can see the 1,000 way down in the distance. It's just a glimmer of a light, but I'll get there soon.
It's always there, right? It's always just a glimmer. I'm sure you told your sales guys, it's just gotta keep showing up every single day.
That's right.
Eventually you have one sale, one, I'm gonna call it tweet because
Yeah.
I've always known it as Twitter. That's how I
Yeah.
signed up for it. X post, and then it's always that one that just gains traction. So it might be,
Yep.
and it's also if you think of it kind of like a game or a numbers game, it does make it easier. So if I see, okay, how does this person have 100,000? Well, they've been posting consistently for 5 years,
Yep.
and they have, let's say, 200,000. 200,000, let's mind you, post compared to, let's say, your 10,000 post. And so it's that kind of gives you that, okay, well, it wasn't just one post that got them viral or what have you. It's, like you said, measurable, attainable, really just focusing on those SMART goals and really focusing on what you can do to achieve. And with that, as we wrap it up today, what is something you want to leave off with someone today? Someone's in your position, and not necessarily like starting over, let's say at 50, more so as they want to rebuild a family. They notice that work has taken over their life, and they're in that position. They can't necessarily leave, and they may not want to leave too. They may love their job. What would you like to speak to someone today who wants to reconnect with their family? So that's the focus.
Yeah, I definitely want to bring it back to that. Is if you're missing dinners, you're missing your kids' events, you're telling yourself it's just temporary, it's just another few hours. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest whether it really is temporary, because temporary has a way of becoming permanent if you don't draw the line. And what I mean by drawing the line, and it's so funny I'm talking about this because I just had this conversation with my wife. She just started a new job about 2 months ago. And she's now learning that, okay, she's having what I call work creep, where it's creeping into her personal life. And she's now facing the other things that I was facing. And I told her, I said, what this means is drawing a line. It literally means drawing a line, setting boundaries with your work. Now, look, I know I say this, and I know every person that watches this is going to say that's easier said than done, because telling your boss, here's when I'm available, here's when I'm not, It's terrifying. And you're scared because you don't want to lose your job. But the reality is you have to have that conversation. And as being a boss before, I respect people that lay the grounds so I know. And actually, when people used to do that with me, I started thinking, you know what, maybe I'm spending too much time at work here, because it actually gets you thinking. But nobody wants to have that conversation because you're afraid to lose your job. Because if you don't set those boundaries, though, work's always going to get that work creep. It's always going to cross. They're always going to take a little bit more. 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, turns into 30 more minutes, turns into an hour, turns into working on a Saturday or a Sunday. And you don't set it as an ultimatum. You have a real conversation and you walk them through. And you start this out. And this is exactly, it's funny because this is the exact conversation I had with my wife. You have to start it out in a way. You have to say, Zach, I will give my all to this company. When I'm here working for the hours that I need to work, I'm going to do everything I can to make you look good and this company successful. We have to have some boundaries, though. And I think it's fair that we both discuss this about when I'm available and when I'm not. Do you think that's fair, Zach?
I do.
I'm going to sit here and be quiet until you answer, because I need to make you a little uncomfortable so you listen to what I'm about to say. And you have to have that conversation with them, just like that. Okay. And it's not about being disrespectful. It's not about saying, I don't want to work. You have to lay the groundwork first that, hey, I'm here for the company. I'm here to make you look good. I'm here to give it my all. However, I have a life as well. And for me to do better at work, I also need to have a great life. And if you want my all during the day, I need my nights to spend with my family and my friends and to recharge my batteries. So that, and then you talk to them, share with them. You know, I take my kids, I take my son to Boy Scouts, I take my other son to the band. You have to make it personal. Because when you make it personal, your boss tends to understand, because they either have kids or they've had kids or they've been in that situation before. So they understand. So you just have to work with them and teach them and really set those boundaries. So if I had to say, you know, starting over doesn't mean starting from zero, because not everybody can do it. But you got to lay the boundaries for your work. You got to lay the boundaries for your boss. And it's better if you start a new job and you do it at the beginning. But if you can't do that and you're already been in with the company for some time, have a one-on-one with the boss. It's better if you can do it in person if you're not remote. If you can go in their office so they can feel and see you, they can bond with you. But if you can't and you're doing it remote, kind of like we're doing this podcast, right? That's how you have to have the conversation, is just lay it out. And make sure they know you're there for the company, you're there for them to make them look good, because that's all what every boss wants to hear. But at the same time, I need my life with my family as well, whether it be on the weekends and whether it be in the evenings.
Well, I like that, because you're really putting the focus back on the boss, that if you want to get the best out of me, here's the negotiation. Here's what needs to happen. Because if you're running on empty, how can you give your best?
Yep, that's it. It's flipping it around. You're recharging the batteries. My recharge of my batteries is spending time with my kids, my wife, going to Boy Scout meetings, going to band performances, because I mentally check out and I don't burn out. The amount of time and energy you vested in me to become a successful employee of whatever it is I do, sales, customer service, whatever it is, I need to recharge my batteries and mentally check out sometimes so I don't get burnt out, right?
Exactly. And then you're all of a sudden looking for the next job versus loading on what do you need to do versus blaming all the companies.
Yeah. And that's a conversation you have to have. It's a hard conversation to have. And I would practice it with your spouse or your friend or family member before you have it with your boss. That way they could be honest with you about how you came off, how you sounded. I wouldn't just dive right in and have that meeting with the boss right away. Practice it. And that's sales, got to practice your script before you present it.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest things, is that those role plays, we get to really practice them out when they're done like a real life situation, because I've been part
Mhm.
of playing role plays when I was through school and what I do now, and they always seemed, for lack of a better word, almost superficial. Like you know what the other person's gonna say and do. It's not too hard.
Yeah.
Versus, what do you say to someone who objects to what you have to say? How do you handle that? How do you handle the body language, the facial, the voice? Because there's so much that goes into it.
So I think part of practicing too is for you to feel more comfortable about having the
Like,
conversation.
that's a very good point. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah, and it's yeah, it's you don't want to sound scripted, but it's also about comfort because the more times you practice it, the more comfortable you feel, the more natural it feels that you're actually having conversation and you just didn't type something up in Chat GPT or whatever AI program to come here and say da 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 da. You're reading it line for line.
It's kind of funny because that's how it's kind of come to be now. Because some people say it's like, well, how'd you? I'll ask them like, how'd you know what to say? It's like, oh, I just asked AI.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
like, wait, you just asked AI that?
yeah, that's unfortunately that's a bad side effect of AI right now, and that's a whole nother podcast that we could talk about on another time. Because let me tell you, Zach, I've dived heavily into AI, and I've helped companies integrate AI, and everybody's trying to layer AI to fix a problem, but they don't realize they need to fix the problem first, and then use AI to not develop that problem again, and to have an easier process. But everybody's throwing AI at things and it you don't realize what you're doing because AI is only as good as you tell it to be. I have a saying like in sales, garbage in, garbage out.
Ain't that the truth? Well, Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for taking part of your day to come on this podcast. And if you're looking to improve your sales, improve your family, Mike's the guy. And so all his socials will be in below. His book will be in the description below. So go check out his book. Go support him on X and all the social medias. And if you got value out of this, let us know below what value, what piece of information was it? Sales, was it family? Let us know below what type of value you got out of this podcast today. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this to help someone in need, because we talk about sales, we talk about relationships, we talk about people, we talk about how to connect with people, how to have respect for ourselves so we can have some respect for others. And that all starts with us. So let's go out there, let's do it together, and let's become the best versions of ourselves possible, knowing that we can improve, we can change. It won't be easy because I have yet to read a book where it says it's going to be easy. It says it will be worth it. So thank you, Mike, for coming on. I hope everyone watching this has a blessed day. And again, let us know below what value you got out of today. Thank you.